Hello, hello. Welcome to the UR Covered podcast. I'm Hannah Lynn, your host, and I am really pumped about today's topic. I kind of set it up last week. Last week was like an intro to the season and more of a check-in, like how are you doing? It is 2023. It's so crazy. But this is the first episode that we're really going to get into the normal, I was saying like normal broadcasting, and I just wanted to talk about kind of what to expect in this season, the second season, and because I'm pretty excited about it. I've got 2 series going on. One is going to be all on peace, and so we're going to discover together more biblical deep dive on the topic of peace and what that looks like. And then we are also going to talk about dating relationships with your mental health in mind. Both of those series are going to be on our newsletter, the Inside Out newsletter. And so you can actually subscribe and get both of those. And so we're going to be doing that for the next 6 weeks, which I'm so excited about. I feel like both of these topics are just great to start the new year off. And I explained in the last episode why dating for me is so important to talk about it's like personal to me on around January. And you can check out that episode if you would like to find out more. We're going to dive into our devotional because we were talking about peace, and I want to tell you this story. We're going to find it in our devotional is going to be found in Matthew 9 verses 23 through 27. And you can also find the story in Mark chapter 4, starting in verse 35. And they're very, very similar. So there wasn't a whole lot of things that I felt like, oh, we need to touch on this because it's mentioned this way in this other part of the passage. It's the new year, but when John and I, what we did for the holidays, it was kind of fun because we had both sets of family around, which is the first time in our marriage where we've seen both sets around Christmas time. And so we went to see John's side of the family, and then we spent Christmas with my side of the family, and they actually went to Mexico. We went with them to Mexico, and it was a lot of fun. But, John's with the in-laws, and he kept saying, he was like, the big thing that I really want to do, like, because we talked about expectations and like, what is it that you really are excited about this trip that you really want to see happen? And so the thing that he kept saying was, I really, really, really want to go deep sea fishing. John is a fisherman. He really enjoys it. I enjoy it too. Like I can do it with him, and it's not like stressful. It's actually kind of peaceful. And so we go fishing. We go ice fishing in the winter, but he's always wanted to go. He always says any vacation, he wants to go deep sea fishing. So we went in Jersey Shore. We went fishing, but it was like on the coast, like it was in the little harbors or something like that. It wasn't like we were in open water and couldn't see land, and that's kind of what it was going to be like in Mexico. So I had zero expectations. I didn't really know what it was going to be like. So John's like, I don't care who comes with, but I'm going to go, and whoever wants to come with can. My entire family decides to go with us. And it was a lot of fun. My sisters and my brother loved it. So we're on this boat. And my mom, she is so funny. She just wants to be with us. And so she definitely gets seasick. So she knew that she was going to be sick, right? Like any kind of boat, even a ferry boat ride can make her sick. So she was like in one spot of the boat, there was like this ladder that she was holding on to, and she was like this the entire time. And I didn't know how I was going to react with a boat out in the sea. And it looked calm to me. There was no storm. There was not even like a cloud in the sky, but it was a small boat. So there was 2 guys on the boat that were like guiding us, and then one was driving. The other one was like, man, he knew what he was doing. And it kind of reminded me of the disciples. Like they probably knew what they were doing, right? So the thing is that was so interesting is that when we get out onto the water, it was getting rocky. So I could feel the boat swaying, and it was tipping so much. Like maybe some of you guys have experienced this before, but I had never experienced this before. And I had gone into the boat's cabin for a little bit, and I wasn't seeing the shore because I was in the cabin, and my body was like, why are we rocking back and forth? Because it wasn't registering that we were on water. And I started getting really sick, and I go on the deck again, and I kind of just ground myself, and I get as close as I can to the water without actually like getting out of the boat. And because you definitely didn't want to be out of the boat. And I could tell that the way that the waves were acting, it was kind of throwing the crew off a little bit, like the two guys that were guiding us. Like I could tell they were a little bit more flustered than normal. And they were trying to not let on that this was like kind of rocky. And we start kind of realizing this is rough. This is rough. And my husband's been quiet this whole time. And as soon as I start saying that I'm not feeling well, he's like, yeah, I'm not feeling too good either. And I don't know why. Like this, you find new things out. Like I've only been married for 5 years, but I don't think I've ever, I think it was a first for him too, but he started to get sick. And I don't blame him. Like it was rocking back and forth, and the water kind of like got onto the deck because of how much the boat was rocking. And I just had never experienced it before. So it kind of made this story from Matthew, when Jesus calms a storm, like a little bit more alive for me, where before when I read it, I was like, okay, like cool, God, Jesus calms storms, right? And it also shows the authority that Jesus has over the waves. And so I always focus on that, but I didn't realize how scared the disciples probably were. And because I'm thinking about this crew who, man, they were pros. They knew what they were doing. But to get to the point of actually them being afraid, like the disciples were pros. Like that was what they did, is they went fishing, for a job, to make money. And for them to be thrown off and terrified and think that they were going to die, I can only imagine, because this boat situation was rough. So anyways, back to my story. John actually ends up throwing up a couple of times on this boat trip. And I felt so bad. I kept being like, babe, do you want to go back? Like, we can go back. Like, he's like, no, I am fishing. So we did. We caught a barracuda, and a couple other fish. And it was funny because like at the end of the trip, my mom was like, Hannah, does your arm, because it is hard, like the deep sea fishing, like reeling in the deep sea fishing reels, it's very different than ice fishing. Let me tell you. But my mom was like, Hannah, does your arm hurt from reeling in the fish? And I was like, yeah, a little bit. And then she's like, my arm hurts too. And I was like, from what? She was like, from holding onto the boat. My mom cracks me up. But poor John, that was like the one thing he was looking forward to, and he threw up the entire time. The poor guy. So I'm going to read to you Matthew 8, verse 23 through 27. And when he got into the boat, his disciples followed him, and behold, there arose a great storm on the sea. And so the boat was being swamped by the waves, which I so can see now, but he was asleep. And they went and woke him, saying, Save us, Lord, we are perishing. And he said to them, Why are you afraid, O you of little faith? Then he rose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. And the men marveled, saying, What sort of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him? Jesus has the authority to calm the physical waves and wind that we see. And I know in the last episode, I quickly mentioned that I was in this disaster mental health class, and we're talking about like how to help survivors of natural disasters. And I just think about how scary those storms can be, and how the God that we serve has authority enough to calm the storms and the sea. That's the kind of peace that we get to have, that our God, that Jesus is the authority over those things, that we can go to him and talk to him about it, and that he's not just somebody on the boat. No, he actually is with you on the boat, but he also is the one who is in control, and he is loving, and he is good, and he is faithful. And I think those things are really, really important to remember too, because we don't see the big picture, right? We don't get to see everything else that's happening, or what maybe that storm might be teaching us or protecting us from in the future. We don't really know when a dating relationship ends and it was really hard and it feels like a storm right now, but down the road you're going to be like, hey, I wouldn't have met my awesome pastor man husband, John Miller. We don't know those things, but God does. And so we get to trust him that he is good and faithful. And that is how we get to step into peace, because not only is Jesus in the boat with us as a friend, as a confidant, no, he actually does have authority and power to listen to our prayers and save us. The disciples were terrified. I mean, this was a terrifying situation, and they knew it. They were experienced. For them to be frightened means something. That sounds like a scary situation. I mean, I was afraid on this boat and there was no storm. So I think that's the reason why this story is in the Bible, to show that when we have storms of life, that we can trust him, because he does have authority. He does have authority, and we can go to him with the storms of life and expect to receive peace and calm. And so that is our little devotional for today. Speaking of storms, I wanted to talk about some of the really interesting fashion trends of 2023. And so don't tune out if you're not into the fashion, okay? Because I think you're going to find this interesting, because it's really, really hilarious. So there's this thing called like core, and it's a phrase that just makes your fashion sense, your fashion style, a lot more niche, and I really enjoy it. I think it's a lot of fun to talk about. But there is something called, something like Regency core, that was more from Bridgerton, like all those dresses, that Renaissance type of, not Renaissance, they call it Regency, but that's why that kind of style with the satin and everything was very, very much popular this year and last year. And then there's also cottagecore. Yeah, cottagecore. And then this year, so when I say that, it just means that there's that niche. Like there's like a lot of, with cottagecore, you look like Anne of Green Gables, okay? But this year it's so interesting because it's going to be, the big one is mermaid core. And yeah, we're going to see this a lot on the runways, like look out for it. But how you can incorporate this into your own style, if this is something that fits your more aesthetic, there's going to be a lot more jewelry that's going to have seashells on it. Dresses are going to have a lot more large print, bright colors that have maybe starfish or seashells on it, or maybe more waves, something beachy looking. There's going to be a lot more of that. The other thing that I found really interesting was that there's going to be a lot more sequins, and the sequence is going to be like more a turquoise kind of color. It's going to look like, it's just going to look like, think mermaid. Those color schemes is going to be in I saw there were sequence pants. There was going to be a sequence tops, maybe a jacket with a lot more sequins. And then those purses that we saw in the early 2000s that were just so popular, you know what I'm talking about, where they were so fun and cute, but the big sequence with the round sequence, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but if you do, that's going to be back. The other thing that I find very interesting about mermaid core that I actually really like for my own personal wardrobe, I love sweaters, because of the therapist thing. You got to have the cozy sweater. But this sweater is so different. It is going to look more like netting. It's like a big, it's like big yarn. It's going to be, and then the loose, it's not going to be practical. It's going to be loosely knitted sweaters that looks more like a net, like that you cast out to sea kind of thing. And so I found that really fascinating, and I enjoy it. I really do. So if that is something that's more of your aesthetic, if the sea is calling you, maybe try out some mermaid core, because that's going to be something that's trending this year. The other things to keep look out for, maybe add to your wardrobe. Monochromatic is going to make its headway again. Like, people love monochromatic because it's classic. It is just amazing. It's great. And it's another sustainable item that's not going to go away anytime soon, because we're trying to move towards a more classic mentality of buying statement pieces that will last a long time, because we're moving from fast fashion to sustainable options. And the other thing to invest in is a loose fitting blazer suit. And so getting the dress pants and the blazer for any kind of office wear is still going to be popular this year. And so those are just some things to keep in mind as you're shopping for your wardrobe this year. If you need new clothes for the dates you're going to be going on, which is the segue into our next segment of mental health / therapy. We're going to talk about, like I said, we're going to be doing a series for 6 weeks, and we're talking about how to date with your mental health in mind. And on the blog, HannahLynnMiller.com, I have a list of things to look out for when you are dating with your mental health in mind, okay? And I want to list these things off for you, and we can kind of talk about it a little bit more, but I love talking about dating. I think that it's so much fun, and I want you to feel refreshed. I want you to feel good when you are dating. And part of that is just knowing how to take care of yourself, and to know when to take a break, when to communicate. And I think that is really important as Christians to have this topic talked about. And that's why I am tackling it, because it can be awkward sometimes, but I really enjoy this topic. I love talking about dating. I did quite a bit of dating, and I did it in a conservative Christian college, and I came out alive, okay? I may not have come out with a husband. That happened later in life, but I didn't graduate with a husband, but I did date a lot. And I feel like those two things are very abnormal for a conservative Christian college. So I feel accomplished. With that in mind, here are some things. And again, you can get this on my blog, HannahLynnMiller.com. Dating with your mental health in mind. First, physical and emotional boundaries should align. And when I'm talking about dating, I'm talking about anything under the sun that's not marriage. Because for me, I don't really care. You can put whatever label you want on this, as long as it's not marriage. And because marriage to me is just a very different thing. And the way that I think that the Bible talks about dating and marriage and everything, that sex belongs in marriage. And the other thing is, I do think that it's very practical, and here's why. What you really want to make sure that certain things align, and the levels of your relationship are the same, okay? Because as soon as anything rises and the other thing goes down, there's a symptom, and you might feel it, and it's called anxiety. Because anxiety is not always bad. Sometimes anxiety is a warning sign to you that maybe there's a boundary that is being crossed, or maybe something isn't isn't quite right. And so there's a few levels you want to check. So if you are dating right now and you are feeling more anxious, maybe you're not eating as much, maybe you're waking up at night, maybe you can't fall back asleep in the morning because you're thinking about this relationship, maybe you can't fall asleep because you're thinking about this relationship and it's stressing you out. Let's check the levels. So, okay, physical intimacy needs to be the same as the commitment level. Okay. So say there's no commitment. You haven't talked about it. You don't even know if you're in a dating relationship and the physical intimacy has gone way up. Okay. That you might be experiencing some anxiety because you haven't communicated with that person, where are we? What are we doing? And so that's why the anxiety is going to go up, right? Maybe you've shared all of your life's deepest, darkest secrets and you also are not in a committed relationship. Like you don't know if this person is, totally, you guys are exclusively dating and it's just you and him and you don't know. And you've shared so much emotional intimacy with that person and there's not a commitment. That could be anxiety producing. Maybe you shared too much too soon, too much anxiety. So there's these things that you can check, right? And I always say that I think that commitment is really key in a relationship. And as believers, as Christians, people that want to, follow Jesus, let's just talk about it. I think it's just way different when you have sex and you're married. It's just way different. It just is because the commitment's there and it's a beautiful thing and it's always going to be different. Even if you have had sex outside of marriage, and then you end up being married and have sex, you're going to notice a difference. Because it's a beautiful thing. It's how God created it. And the Bible is pretty clear about that. So that's something to think about. Relationships should move together with physical and emotional intimacy based on the level of commitment. As a Christian, this is very practical because I really believe that when you are dating, you shouldn't be acting like you're married because the commitment just isn't there.
I couldn't do this podcast without Descript. It's an amazing software that helps you edit video and audio at the same time. You're recording it right on your laptop using your camera and the audio setup of your choice. I probably have a little bit more of a high-tech one for me, at least. I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I feel like such a pro. Anyways, Descript makes you feel like a pro, for real. You can literally edit by rewriting what you said and edit your transcript. It's a game changer, guys. And the next amazing feature that I want to tell you about is that you can download each video to the size of whichever social media platform you desire. So like for YouTube, you can have it in the size for YouTube or TikTok, Reels, it's kind of the same size. And then you can also customize what your kind of like your the titles down here, like the font and everything, so you can make it really pretty, as you can tell. And then you can also make it into a square. Like you can make your video into a square, which I don't really know what you'd want that for now. Maybe like an Instagram video and not a reel. I don't really know, but that's an option. Anyways, I love Descript, and there's so much more that you can do with this software, and I don't even have time to tell you about all the things that you can do with it. But as someone who has done audio editing for a long time, and honestly I was just kind of like over using Adobe and using all these other softwares because you'd have to do the video and split it up from the audio, and that's just a lot of work. Honestly, I get bored. Whenever I have to do any kind of audio editing, I get so bored. So this is like the best thing ever because you get to edit your audio and your video at the same time. You can download it as a WAV file or an MP3. Anyways, I'm going to stop boring you with all of this nerdy talk. And below you can find the Descript link in the show notes. When you subscribe to Descript using the link you find in this video, I do receive a commission, which helps me keep this podcast going. So thanks ahead of time. And as always, if you need any kind of help with your social media accounts, please check out my media company, Abundantly More Media. We are happy to help you with all of your content dreams and making them come true.
The second thing, take breaks. Take the breaks that you need. This could mean many things, like taking breaks from dating apps or between relationships. Listen to your heart. Rejection, disappointment, and grief can occur around a relationship ending, even if it is a few months or a few weeks. Allow for healing to take place before getting to know another individual. Thirdly, find out or discover what you are looking for in a partner. Dating allows you to discover what you are looking for, and you can take notes on what is important to you. This mindset allows you to learn about yourself and others while dating. No dating experience is a waste when you have a learning mindset. Fourthly, set goals. Be honest with yourself. Why are you dating? Why are you dating? Are you dating because you're lonely? Have you come to a point in your life where you're desiring a life partner? Would you like to be married, or are you needing a date for the next family gathering? The first step is admitting to yourself why you're dating. The second step is letting the person you are dating know where you're at. Your goals with dating can be totally private for yourself, but it's helpful to have one. Dating takes time and energy. Visualizing your goal will help you date with intention. Knowing your goal will help you communicate clearly with the person you are dating. Some call this a DTR, but I actually think that this should be happening all the way through the relationship. And if the dating relationship doesn't work out and there was clear communication throughout the process, there's going to be so much fewer hurt feelings. Fifthly, prepare questions ahead of time. So maybe you're coming out of a relationship and you're drained, or maybe it was a hard relationship and so you're a lot more nervous about this first date. First dates are awkward. They're hard. Everyone feels that. It's weird, and it's not always that fun. So preparing questions ahead of time is really, really, really helpful. It sounds funny, but if you try writing down some questions for your date ahead of time, you may find that you're not as nervous. What do you want to know about this person? Having a few questions prepared might calm your nerves. Stay curious and see where a few questions lead the conversation. Just to keep in mind, when you do a podcast interview, usually I write down 4 questions and it lasts like a whole hour, those 4 questions. So just keep that in mind. Like if you know that you're going to probably be talking to them for 2 hours, like prepare 5 questions. Like I promise you, it is going to fill up the time. Number 6, take rejection and learn from it. My favorite thing to tell myself when I was dating is that it only takes one person. Finding a spouse only takes one person. And it's a beautiful thing when you find that person. However, sometimes you have to go on a lot of dates, talk about the weather, exchange numbers, meet parents and friends for the first time with multiple different people before you meet the one that you could see yourself with. And that's okay. That's what dating is for. You may not be that person's person and they were not your person. So don't take the rejection hard. Don't take to heart the rejection. Do take the time to heal and get out there again. Remember, it only takes one. 7, stay positive. What are you thinking about right before you head to that dating app? Or what are you telling yourself about yourself right before that dinner date? Take those thoughts captive. We don't have time for that. Take the time to really think through your thoughts. If you think negatively, this will affect your mood during the date. This is also a big way to take rejection hard. If you're already thinking this isn't going to work out and then it doesn't work out, it will be harder to recover. So those negative thoughts are just not going to serve you. Try instead to say, this didn't work out, but it's okay because there's a reason. Or this may not work out, but I did learn X, Y, and Z. Continue to have a positive mindset that is going to learn and grow from experiences. Number 8, invest in your personal growth. There is a study done in 2016 about rejection sensitivity and relationships called Rejection Sensitivity and Relationship Satisfaction in Dating Relationships. The mediating role of differentiating of self. The study looks at how those who are sensitive to rejection often keep themselves at a distance from their romantic partners, and it often comes from a lack of differentiating of self. So here's a quote from the article. Findings suggest that rejection sensitivity might lead individuals to emotionally and behaviorally distancing themselves from their romantic partners, thus reducing opportunities for both rejecting and accepting experiences. The study also finds that individuals who did not have enough security emotionally by their caregiver developed rejection sensitivity. And this would start to show around 18 to 25 years of age. This is when romantic relationships are more and more important for this age group, and also the time that they explore their own self-differentiating. And this means just to explore their own beliefs apart from their family system. It's very healthy, and if this emotional development does not take place, one may not develop the ability to have their own beliefs apart from their peers. So like if you can be in the family unit and have separate beliefs about yourself, about what you want to do or the world around you, because you're an individual as well, and you have separate experiences from mom and dad, and you can be accepted even in that family unit, even though you are different in some ways than mom and dad. The acceptance will teach you that you can have intimacy with a person without having to agree with everything that they say or feel everything that they feel. Like you can be separate and come back and still be loved and accepted. It's very, very healthy, but a lot of times this does not happen. The process of differentiating of self theoretically begins in childhood and involves achieving a healthy balance of independence and interdependence with important others in one's life. This includes separating one's own thoughts and feelings from that of others and intentionally acting accordingly to one's own thoughts and desires while also maintaining intimacy with others. This also adds to rejection sensitivity. If an individual has not discovered how to maintain a connection with their family system and also their own individuality, they will not be able to keep that kind of individuality during a romantic dating relationship, which then makes a breakup and rejection so much more painful because they kind of lost a sense of themselves. If you may have some of these tendencies, it is crucial to educate yourself and take care of your own personal growth. This is something that will serve you well in so many different areas. If you feel like this is something that might have happened to you, that you might struggle with in relationships, and this is just a taste of what we're going to get into in this series, this podcast series in the next couple of weeks. But this is called rejection sensitivity, and it's very, very interesting. But these are some things that you can work on and just be aware of. Just being aware that this might be something that you have in relationships where you feel like you have to feel that person's feelings and you can't have your own individual feelings and beliefs and thoughts. That's a problem in a relationship, and that is something that we can work on by just being aware of it. And so I really love this study, and that's why I wanted to put it in this episode. Sorry if I was talking too fast. I'm like, I have to get through this, but it's all so good. But yeah, I'm going to put this on the blog and you can read more about it. And, you know, it's just an example of some personal growth that you can do by just being aware. And maybe that means going to a therapist or going to talk to somebody or a relationship coach, something, or sign up below to receive a 6-week series called Relationships with Your Mental Health in Mind. And this might be a small step to take to find out more about relationships, yourself, and your mental health. All right, fam. Please do that. It'll be so fun and it's going to be great. And I would love to see you on that email list. I'm telling you, the email list is active. You guys show up. I absolutely love it. So if you haven't subscribed yet, you totally should. And remember to follow on all platforms, UR Covered Podcast. You can find all the episodes on the URcoveredPodcast.com. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram. My personal account is Hannah Lynn Miller. And I will see you there. Be blessed. Know that Jesus got you. And you are covered. I will see you in the next episode.